My name is Adrian Cole, and today I'm going to tell you a story about betrayal, pride, and the night my daughter shattered an entire wedding with just a few words. This isn't a tale you'll want to click away from. It's packed with twists that you won't see coming. Stick with me until the end, because what happened changed everything. But before we dive in, take a quick second to subscribe and drop a comment letting me know which city or country you're listening from. That one comment keeps me going and gives me the drive to bring you more real, emotional stories every week. I sat down at a polished table inside a private estate near Ironwood Lake, trying to ignore the whispers sliding across the linen. In front of me was a cream parchment name tag with my name carefully written, but someone had scratched new words under it. Adrian Cole, father by obligation. The ink might as well have been a knife. For 17 years, it had been only me and my daughter Sophia. Her mother disappeared when she was just 7 months old, and I carried the weight alone. Night shifts, long hours, fevers, school runs, scraped knees. Every paycheck stretched. Every meal counted. And now, after everything, I was seated among strangers in polished suits who sneered at the truck parked outside like it dirtied their view. At that table, their laughter wasn't hidden. A woman in pearls glanced at my shoes and whispered to her husband. He chuckled. A younger man leaned back, gave a curling grin, and muttered, "Guess they had to invite the janitor." I pushed my chair back without a word. I didn't need their games. I didn't want to waste energy trying to guess which smug face had written that note. I just wanted out. Across the room, Sophia stood glowing in her pearl satin gown, smiling easily beside her fiancé's family. Glasses clinked, champagne spilled. They laughed like nothing ugly lived beneath the surface. And maybe I truly didn't belong. Maybe this chapter of her life had no space left for me. I turned, ready to leave without goodbyes, before emotion could choke me. Then the music cut. The mic buzzed. The chatter dropped into silence. My daughter was on the dance floor, heels dangling from one hand, gripping her fiancé's wrist with the other. Her jaw was set like steel. Into the microphone she said, "I'm done. We're leaving now." Guests laughed at first, assuming it was some joke. But when she let go of his hand and marched straight toward me, no one laughed again. The event host froze behind his booth, hands stiff on the laptop. The groom, Logan Ward, just stood blinking, like someone had ripped the ground out from under him. Sophia's fingers caught my arm. Her whisper was sharp. "We're leaving now." I managed a stunned, "Sophia, what's happening?" But she only said, "I'll explain in the car." We walked through that stunned room, past bridesmaids clutching glasses, past gossiping relatives too shocked to move. Not once did she look back, not once did I. The drive was silent for nearly an hour. Her bare feet tapped the pedals, her dress rustled against the seat, and the celebration mix still streamed through the car until I switched it off. She never argued. She simply drove, eyes locked ahead, and turned toward Fairbend like she'd known all along where she was going. When we finally parked outside my small row house, she sat gripping the wheel, her breath heavy. "I saw that tag before you did," she confessed. "Last night at the pre-ceremony dinner, I needed to know if they'd actually go through with it. And they did." Her small handbag opened, and out came her phone. No warning, no words, just a video. The screen lit up with Victor Hale, Logan's father, leaning at a bar, tie loose, glass in hand. "The guy's nothing more than a handyman," he sneered. "I saw his place on map search online, barely above low-income housing." Laughter echoed off camera. Then Logan's mother chimed in, correcting him with a sharper jab. "Not a handyman. Janitor. Let's give him his title." The video shifted, and there was Logan himself, half-smiled, drink in hand. Wait until Sophia realizes she could have had her real dad walk her down the aisle, the one who didn't mop floors to survive. The clip ended. My chest didn't. I stared through the windshield into the quiet street. The betrayal stung sharper than I thought possible. They knew. They all knew. And they smiled in my face anyway. But what Sophia was about to reveal next would take that betrayal far beyond insults, straight into a war for control. The betrayal video still burned in my head as I sat frozen in that quiet row house. Her real dad? I muttered, anger burning through my teeth. That man walked out before Sophia even grew her first tooth. She turned toward me, her expression a hollow stare, her voice steady. I told them he was gone. I told them who raised me. They didn't care. My throat tightened. My voice wavered. Why didn't you warn me before today? I could have stayed home. Sophia shook her head. Because it wasn't just about us. I needed to see them clearly, in their own skin. I needed proof. I studied her. So, you married Logan just to trap them? She leaned back, eyes sharp. I didn't marry him. Her hand flipped open the glove box. A tan legal folder landed heavy on my lap. I never signed the prenup. My team reviewed it, revised it, and sent a counter. They ignored it. Without my signature, it's worthless. Inside the folder were notarized filings, letters, timestamps, airtight. I stared. You had a lawyer? Her answer. Bar came without pause. Since April, through a private advisory board, confidential. I shook my head slowly. How long have you been planning this? She looked at me like I was asking something foolish. Since the day I started building something worth protecting. Before I could press her, she pulled out her phone and tapped. A professional website appeared, her picture at the top, bold letters below. Solara Biotech, predictive diagnostics for preventative care. That's yours? I whispered. I'm co-founder. We're at Series C, valuations around 86 million. I froze, stunned. My daughter, the same kid who once pieced together engineering sets on the kitchen floor, had become someone investors begged to meet, and I had no idea. They thought they were marrying up, she said, sliding her phone away. And you let them think that, I replied. Of course I did. She stepped barefoot into the gravel, walking toward the house like she never left. Inside, the air smelled of dust and old leather. Sophia tossed her shoes aside, walked into the kitchen, and pulled out 2 glass sodas from the fridge. She slid one across the table, peeling the label from hers while watching me with storm-like focus. Then she reached into her overnight bag. Another tan legal folder, thicker, heavier, hit the table. Open it. I obeyed. Inside were stock certificates and signed purchase records under the name Winterlight Holdings. What is this? I asked. My trust, she said. I've been buying into Hale Global Health since last year. You bought stock in Logan's family business? She shook her head. Not stock, control, 43% as of last week. I scanned the documents. The money trail was hidden through holding companies in Dakota and Maine. That's how they didn't see you coming. Exactly. They thought I was just a biotech girl who'd bend into their world. They didn't realize I already had mine. I used Solara dividends and what Aunt Miriam left me. Remember when I asked you to help open that account 4 years ago? That's when it began. I leaned back. You held all this through the engagement? I wasn't sitting still, she said. I was digging. From her bag came a dark portfolio binder, thick with spreadsheets and emails. She spread them across the table like puzzle pieces. Here, inventory reports claim a loss of 26,000 units, but it's closer to 90. Vendor list. See this? Core Path suppliers, owned by Logan's uncle, overcharging them 15%. Compliance filings with the National Health Board, forged. I had them re-audited. I shook my head, stunned. This is war, Sophia. Exactly. She placed 3 signed proxy agreements in front of me. 2 minority shareholders. 1 independent director, Marissa Grant. Together they hold about 12%. With them, I can call an emergency executive vote. My eyes narrowed. So why do you need me? That's when she slid one last paper across. A proxy authorization form. I'm transferring my vote to you. I stared. What? I'll keep my shares, but publicly, you'll hold the voting rights. They can't call me a bitter ex. But if they have to answer to you, the man they mocked as a janitor, they'll choke on it. Her eyes didn't waver. They laughed at you, Dad. Now you'll be the one sitting at their table. And as the weight of that folder sank in, I realized this wasn't just about family insults anymore. It was about walking straight into Hale's empire and tearing it apart from the inside. The next days blurred into tension and silence until Friday morning arrived, the moment Sophia's plan would collide with the Hale empire. I stared at the proxy form, my hands trembling on the table. Why me, Sophia? You built this. You should finish it. Her eyes cut straight through me. I will. But this part belongs to you. They mocked the man who worked double shifts to keep food on the table. The man who gave up hot meals so I could build engineering sets out of scrap. They laughed at him in their members' lodge whispers. Now that man is going to sit at the head of their table. Something old stirred inside me, not fear, but a mix of rage and pride. You really want me there? She leaned forward, half smiled like a commander sealing an order. I want you to lead it. I signed. Just like that, everything shifted. Sophia tucked the paper away, as if nothing historic had happened. The meeting's Friday morning. Be ready and wear a proper suit. I don't own one. You will. She tossed her empty glass soda into the sink and disappeared into the spare room, as if she'd never left this house at all. Friday came quickly. Sophia handed me an ash-gray suit, tailored and pressed. You'll thank me later, she said. It felt foreign, but when I buttoned it and tied the shoes, the mirror didn't reflect a janitor anymore. It showed someone they would regret underestimating. We stepped into Hale Med Tower at 9:20 a.m., 10 minutes late. Sophia didn't knock. She shoved the frosted glass doors open like she owned them. 12 heads turned around a long table of polished wood. Crystal pitchers, lined papers. A room expecting routine, not a coup. At the head sat Victor Hale, his ash-gray suit gleaming, expression sharp. You're not allowed in here, he barked. Sophia didn't flinch. Read the bylaws, closed executive session. I'm an executive, and this, she pointed at me, is my proxy. Victor's face tightened. You're bluffing. Calmly, she set a stamped document on the table. Filed Monday, verified, your secretary copied you. Murmurs rippled. Marissa Grant, silver hair and a bronze pendant glinting at her Lar glanced at her notes. It's valid, Victor. I saw it. He sank back into his chair, livid. Sophia stood taller. I call it a new business, immediate vote. Charges, breach of compliance, financial misconduct, and reckless governance. A few board members shifted nervously. Victor laughed, sharp and bitter. You think you can just storm in and take this company? You already gutted it, she replied, voice frosted. She spread her dark portfolio binder open, handing out pages like a teacher tossing exams. Fraud through CorePath suppliers, owned by your brother. Overbilling, 1.6 million skimmed in the past year. Inventory losses, reported 26,000 units, reality closer to 90. Falsified reports to the National Health Board last December, all documented. Eyes dropped, papers flipped. One director whispered, My God. Victor snapped, Baseless. Then audit it, Sophia shot back. Let the numbers speak. His son, Logan Ward, finally spoke. Sophia, please. It doesn't have to go this way. Her gaze was ice. It went this way the moment you mocked the man who raised me. Silence thickened. She nodded toward me. My proxy, Adrian Cole, joins with shareholders Marissa Grant, Leonard Price, and Teresa Vaughn. Together, 53%. Marissa raised her hand. Confirmed. Leonard and Teresa followed. The count was enough. Sophia's voice was steady. Motion. Remove Victor Hale, Harold Hale, and Logan Ward from all executive authority effective immediately. I rose. Seconded. Marissa called the vote. Hands went up, 8 in total. Motion carries. Victor's voice wavered. You can't. You gave me your arrogance, Sophia said, her tone calm as glass. I turned it into a weapon. Victor slumped back, defeated. Logan's eyes dropped to the table, refusing to meet mine. Then Marissa stood again. Final order, interim board chair nomination, Adrian Cole. The room tilted under my feet. Sophia gave me one nod. I rose. All in favor? Marissa asked. 8 hands lifted. Motion passed. Congratulations, Chair Cole. I sat, refusing to celebrate, but the weight of it pressed through me. Victor stormed out. Harold followed. Logan lingered until Sophia looked him dead in the eyes. This was never about us, she said flatly. It was about control. She slung her bag over her shoulder, and together we walked out, leaving their empire in ruins. But Sophia knew this was only the first battle, and Victor Hale wasn't the kind of man to lose quietly. The empire had just cracked in that boardroom, but stepping outside felt heavier than victory. No cheers, no clapping. Just the sound of Sophia's heels striking tile and the heavy door closing behind us. In the lobby, she finally let out a long breath, shoulders dropping for the first time that day. She shot me a quick half-smile. Sharp suit, sharper strike. We stepped into the sunlight. I blinked at the sky, dazed. Just a week ago, I still had grease under my nails from double shifts. Now I was board chair of a company I hadn't even known I was walking toward. Sophia tossed her dark portfolio binder into the trunk like it was routine. In the car, silence sat between us until she asked, "You good?" "I'm trying to process it," I muttered. She chuckled under her breath. "I've been setting this up for years. You jumped in 5 weeks ago and handled it like you belonged there." I didn't feel like I belonged. My mind kept drifting back to the nights at the mall janitor's closet, nodding off against a mop handle, or the times I scrubbed puke off tile while missing Sophia's school recitals. I told her as much. She reached over, squeezed my hand once, firm, not soft. "I saw all of it," she said. "Don't think I didn't notice." By early evening, we pulled into the driveway. Heat pressed down like a hammer. I stripped off the blazer and tossed it over my shoulder. Inside, Sophia moved to the kitchen, poured lemonade into 2 glasses, then slid another envelope onto the table. "This is next," she said. Slim folder, legal title across the top, Cole Health Equity Public Trust. Her name listed as founder, mine as interim chair. "You're sure?" I asked. "Yes. This isn't about revenge. It's about turning their greed into access, something that matters." For a second, I didn't see a businesswoman. I saw my kid in overalls, eating crackers under a workbench while I patched brake lines. "Do you remember prom night?" I asked. "You were upstairs panicking about a jammed zipper, and I was outside fixing some stranger's radiator for free." She laughed softly. "And I made it into photos anyway." We both knew that memory wasn't about cars. It was about always showing up, no matter the cost. She pulled out a garment bag, unzipped it enough to show another tailored suit, lighter gray. "That's for next time," she said. "I'm not living in suits, Sophia." She set it on my chair. "You're not behind me anymore. You're beside me." My throat locked up. I pressed a knuckle to my eye, pretending it was dust. She let the silence stretch and gave me room to sit with it. A few minutes later, we sat shoulder to shoulder, signing the final trust paperwork. Just us, a witness on Zoom, and a green check mark confirming the transfer. The empire they thought they'd keep had been redirected into healthcare access, transparency, and accountability. It didn't feel like theft. It felt like reclamation. 12 days later, the knock came just after 10:30. I was slouched on the couch, sipping tonic water and watching an old episode of a classic auto rebuild series when it rattled the door. Too firm for a neighbor, too hesitant for a cop. I opened it in sweatpants and a faded shirt. Logan Ward stood there, tie crooked, hair a mess, dark circles etched under his eyes. He looked wrecked, twitchy hands shoved into his pockets. "Mr. Cole," he started, voice low. "Please, I need 5 minutes. I need to talk to Sophia." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "You once called me a prop. Now you're on my porch begging for a seat at the table." His face twisted. It wasn't like that. I didn't mean it. I was drunk, just trying to save face. I cut him off before he could finish. And in that moment, I knew this late-night visit wasn't about apologies. It was the start of Victor Hale's counterattack. The late-night knock had cracked open more than the door. It opened the next chapter of this war. That's all you've ever been good at, saving face, I told him. Logan's mouth opened, but I stepped onto the porch, pulling the door behind me so he couldn't look inside. Let me guess. Victor's out. The board put a stranger in charge. The Hale name's circling the drain. And now you're here hoping Sophia has a patch kit. His head dropped. I didn't think she'd actually go through with it. That's your problem, I said. You never believed she could. Behind me, I heard quiet footsteps. Sophia's voice was steady. It's fine, Dad. She stepped out, barefoot, wearing leggings and a hoodie. No makeup, no performance. Just herself. Logan froze a few feet away. She didn't move toward him. She stayed beside me, arms crossed. You don't get to twist this, she said flatly. I know, he said quickly. I panicked. My dad, he blames me. Says I embarrassed the family. Your dad embarrassed himself. You just followed the script, she replied. I never wrote that card, he blurted. But you laughed, she cut in. You laughed while your mom called me the janitor's daughter and your father spat on the man who raised me. You could have stopped it. You didn't. His hands shook as he pulled out a crumpled sheet of paper. I wrote something, an apology. I don't need one, Sophia said. She pulled a slim envelope from her hoodie pocket and held it out. He hesitated. What's this? Cease and desist. Covers personal contact, business involvement, and interference with the transition. He stared at it like it was poison. You're serving me? No, she said. I'm protecting what's mine. He finally took it, shoulders sagging. I thought we had something real. Her eyes hardened. So did I. Until I realized the only thing real was your need to be rescued. He winced, but no tears came. Just the stunned silence of a man who finally saw the wreckage he built. He backed off the porch, climbed into a shiny silver car, and drove away without headlights, as if hiding could erase it. Sophia waited until his taillights disappeared, then walked back inside. I followed. In the kitchen, she poured water, hand steady, jaw tight. You good? I asked. She nodded. He always talked like he was building our future, but it was really just his. You did the right thing, I said. I know. She didn't want to unpack it. She went to bed. I stayed at the table, staring at the folded paper Logan had tried to give her, not the envelope she handed him, the one he carried, worn from being folded too many times. I tossed it in the trash. It belonged there. A week later, Sophia and I stood under a rented tent in Briarfield Park, just blocks from the old row house where we once scraped by on $34 grocery runs. Families filled the space, kids with sticky fingers, strollers lined near the grass, older neighbors leaning on canes. A big banner behind us read, Cole Health Access Fund, Affordable Care, Real Equity. 2 folding tables overflowed with refurbished glucose monitors, blood pressure cuffs, and preloaded medical tablets, all funded by the nonprofit arm we'd carved from Hale Global Health dividends. Sophia took the mic first, sleeves rolled, sunglasses perched on her head. She belonged there. Today isn't about headlines, she said, her voice strong. It's about closing gaps that never should have existed. Heads nodded. A few teens stopped their basketball game and listened. She kept it short, direct. Then she turned toward me. Before any of this could happen, there was someone who worked 3 shifts to keep the lights on, someone who taught me that showing up matters more than any title. That man is my father. The crowd clapped. My stomach flipped. Public speaking was never my thing, but I stepped forward anyway. The mic felt awkward in my hand. My voice cracked once, then steadied. I don't know much about business, I said. Still don't. I can't run spreadsheets, and I definitely don't talk in acronyms. A ripple of laughter moved through the crowd. but I do know how to show up every single day. And just as the applause rose, none of us knew a storm was already building, one that would test whether showing up was enough to survive what came next. The applause from Briarfield Park still echoed in my chest when I picked up the mic one last time. I kept it simple on the mic. I only knew how to do what had to be done. Turns out, that was enough. Then I stepped down before I made it awkward. The applause was different this time. Genuine, not polite filler. Afterward, a group of teens came up. One girl in a hoodie that read Future Engineer looked me straight in the eye. "I've never seen someone like me sitting at a board table," she said. I couldn't find words, so I just nodded. Another kid asked for a photo. He pulled out a cracked generic handset, screen barely holding together. It felt exactly right. Later that evening, City Line News ran a segment, "Mechanic Dad Becomes Corporate Chair." They spelled my name wrong in the caption, but I didn't care. I watched the piece from a folding chair outside the community hall, while Sophia gave her interview with calm authority. She didn't dress it up. She was simply herself, always had been. When the crowd thinned and the last volunteers drove off, we were the only two left under the pop-up tent. Sophia sat beside me, handed me a white envelope, and stayed quiet. Inside was a key property record, a full transfer deed, both our names printed on it. I looked up. "What's this?" "Corner lot, 3 bedrooms. Close to here," she said. My throat tightened. "Not repayment," she added quickly. "Just an upgrade, for both of us." I stared at the key. It felt heavier than it should. "Are we moving?" I asked. She shrugged. "We don't have to, but now we can." We sat in silence, just listening to the cars pass. No drama, no victory dance, just stillness that finally felt earned. 10 months later, I sat in the front row of Crestview University Hall, polished floors gleaming under bright stage lights. Sophia stood at the podium in a tailored blazer, hair pulled back neat. No theatrics, no overreach, just command. Her keynote was titled "Strategic Patience, Winning by Watching." She spoke of leverage, timing, and narrative control, concepts I'd lived by instinct, though I never had names for them. The students scribbled notes like they were hearing gospel. During the QA, one asked, "Who influenced your approach the most?" She didn't pause. "A man who never went to college," she said. "But he taught me cost, value, and return better than any textbook." Her eyes found me in the front row. The room clapped, some students turning to see the man she pointed at. I didn't wave, didn't smile. I just nodded, steady as stone. Afterward, she was swarmed by professors and executives pressing business cards into her hands. I slipped out through the side door. At the valet stand, I passed a kid handing off keys. Same one who'd once laughed at my old truck outside the wedding. He didn't recognize me now, not in this coat, not in these shoes. He looked at me once and said, "Sharpery." "I'd, sir." I slid him a $6 tip and kept walking. A business sedan idled at the curb. Sophia sat inside, scrolling her phone. When I climbed in, she glanced up. "You crushed it," I said. "I know," she replied with a small laugh. "But thanks." We rolled into campus traffic. Silence filled the car, easy and unforced. "You didn't have to do all this," I said finally. "You're right," she answered. "I didn't. I wanted to." At the next red light, I looked out the window. A billboard rose above the gas station where we used to scrape together quarters. White letters on deep navy. "Strength is earned. Coal Health Equity Fund." No design, no logo, just truth. I leaned back, closed my eyes. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like resolution. And for the first time in 17 years, that word, resolution, belonged to both of us.